What is up, people? It is me, Monster15, and welcome back to another video review. I am back to recording a video review. Finally, I have this set that we're going to review today. I've got another set, the Autobot 5-pack for the G1 stuff coming in soon as well. And so this will be the only review for this week, just to let you guys know. I haven't gotten that 5-pack set yet, so I will be getting it at some point this week, and then I'll look it over, look at the figures, everything like that, compare, and then I'll record that and send that out. But today we have the Transformers Nemesis Bridge set, which includes Voyager-class Earthrise Megatron, the Starscream Throne, or, well, Megatron's Throne, Decepticon Throne, Siege, Leader-class Shockwave, as well as Voyager-class Netflix Soundwave as reissues. And so taking a look at the box here, it's massive. And so you can see you have some very nice artwork here. Megatron, Shockwave, and Soundwave, what we call like the big three. You do have the Dramatic Capture series part there. I did forget to mention that, but it is part of the Dramatic Capture series, so you can see that. Very, very nice artwork, really awesome stuff. And then taking a look at the side of the box, you can also see you have some more of that Nemesis Bridge branding here on the side. You have a little more here on the other side as well. On the bottom, just have some random Japanese that I cannot read. A bunch of probably product stuff. Again, sorry I can't read that. And then going into it on the top, you do have more of the Dramatic Capture series, Takara Tomy, you do have Transformers there, and then in addition to that, taking a look at the back here, you do have your obligatory product shots. Now, this is a set that's more of a update to old figures, and so I'm not really going to be doing the transformations, just going to be doing comparisons, because more or less you guys probably already have seen reviews of these figures or have these figures, like the original ones that were released in the main line, and so I want to give you guys a comparison, not really showing you the transformation. I'll show articulation, some of the accessories and stuff like that, but for the most part this will just be a mainly a comparison video, so that I can, delineate to you guys whether you should buy this set or not. So without further ado, that's it for the box, and so alrighty, folks, and to begin, let's start off with the leader class, what would have been the Siege leader class Shockwave. Now, this set, sort of like implied by Dramatic Capture series and everything and what I kind of said in the beginning, these are essentially all reissues of figures that were not easy to get. In addition to that, reissues of figures, particularly two of these figures that were known to have awful yellowing, and in addition to that, this was meant to give us these figures with more accurate paint jobs to the original 80s cartoon and more accurate to what we saw in animation. And so to start off, I felt we could start off with Shockwave. And so we're going to set this guy off to the side here. And here he is with the original. Yes, I was able to pick up the original when it first released, a little bit after it first released, something like that, but not, the ridiculous prices you'll pay for all three of these figures on the aftermarket nowadays if you want to get the originals. But taking a look here, in comparison, this Shockwave, the new one for the Nemesis Bridge set, has a much more color accurate purple color to the animation compared to the Siege version. Don't get me wrong, this still looks really good, but when we're comparing accuracy when it comes to the shade of purple, this lighter, more vibrant purple is much more accurate to how we saw Shockwave in the original cartoon. Now, I know I have them in their spaceship modes, but obviously we're just going to do that, and then you can turn them into, their gun modes, right? This is what Shockwave was in the original cartoon. The other major change you'll obviously see, you'll see the major change here with the blaster on the front, or what would have been the front of the spaceship, because this is the color of the front of the gun that Shockwave transformed into in the original G1 cartoon. Now, it looks a little more obtrusive in robot mode, and I'll address that when we get to robot mode, but overall, this is probably the most accurate and the best mainline Shockwave in comparison to the G1 cartoon and animation that you will ever get. This is a fantastic repaint and reissue of this figure, especially because he doesn't actually come with any of that extra Siege BS, all the Siege, like extra accessories he came with. He doesn't come with that. And so what's really nice is that this is how Shockwave, in my opinion, and I think a lot of people would agree, should have been released in the first place. He should have just been a Voyager, but I guess part of the benefit of him being a leader class figure is mainly due to the joints in this guy. Taking a look at more of the details that are changed, you can see that the paint here is also changed. So when we're comparing this to this, You can see the differences there, right? You can see it right here. You can also see the feet, although not silver. Now, I actually like the silver here on the Siege version. You can see they're pretty nice silver, right, for the back here, what will become the feet. These were painted in this more drab, light gray color. Now, while this is more accurate, I do actually really like this, but obviously you still do have the battle damage. I never took it off, but yeah, you do have some of that battle damage, but this is obviously way more accurate. And so you can see a little bit here too. You can see some of the joints there as well. Sorry, you can see some of the joints there. Those are also painted here instead a different color. Overall, pretty solid stuff. You can even see in the chest what will become the chest. You can see the bottoms here. This is a lighter purple. This is like black and stuff like that, like it's a dark. The towers for within the ship or the gun handle are still pretty much the same in terms of the yellows in there. But yeah, I think that is really it when it comes to the gun slash spaceship mode. And so with a little bit of editing, we are going to take both of these shockwaves from looking like this in their alt modes to looking like this in their robot modes. And when it comes to the new reissue of this Shockwave in this Nemesis Bridge Dramatic Capture Series set, this is by far the best representation of Shockwave in the mainline series, mainline figure lines of Transformers. This is a fantastic rendition of the character. Like I said, the purple is way more accurate. All of the light purple is also very accurate. Also, now, I know that this might be obtrusive, and that's one thing I'd like to address. I still find it fine. I don't find it really crazy at all that this is like that light pastel purple color to match the animation. And I think that when it comes to both of these, they're great figures, but obviously if you want as close to the cartoon as possible, this is the one. Although the one thing I am not the biggest fan of, is I think the yellow on this for the eye should be also on this. Now, as you can see, they're very slightly different where they're yellows, and they still do have that awesome light piping, so really cool stuff there. But yeah, overall, I still do think that this yellow is better and still a little more accurate, because I like the more vibrant, sort of deeper yellow rather than this sort of lighter yellow. But overall, this is still a much better package, and honestly, when it comes to this figure in particular, I don't really find all that much wrong with it when it comes to, especially this reissue of it. Like, I really don't have any major issues besides, like I said, you could say that this is a bit of an issue, and maybe the gray's a bit drab, but it's accurate to the animation, so what can I say? At the end of the day, this is a fantastic reissue of the Shockwave figure, and by far better than the Siege one, and definitely better value than the Siege, especially because this guy goes for big bucks on the aftermarket, and he comes with a bunch of accessories that no one cares about. So, when it comes to this, let's get into the quick articulation. He doesn't really come with any accessories like this particular one, right? This guy came with a crap ton that no one cared about, like I just said. So, you do get a full 360 here. You do get rotation here at the upper part of the bicep, and then you do have the elbow joint a little more than 90, like slightly more than 90. The head is also on like a ball joint, so ball joint swivel. It's more like a ball joint, so you can get a little bit. You can get a full 360. You also do have full waist as well. You can kick forward, you can kick back, you can bend at the knee about 90 degrees, and then you do have some okay ankle rocker. You also have an upper thigh rotation as well. Nothing for the abs, which does really suck. But the thing that I'll say is the big benefit of this figure being a leader class is that all of the joints on this guy are very well done, and this guy is extremely solid. I don't feel he's going to break anytime soon. He doesn't have a hard time standing up. And so overall, when it comes to your reissue, this Shockwave is an absolute slam dunk home run in my opinion. And so, let's move on. Alrighty, folks, and the one we're getting to now is going to be Soundwave. And when it comes to Soundwave, you can definitely instantly see, I think, on camera, a good difference between this one and the original Netflix release. The Netflix Soundwave was one of the hardest Soundwaves to get, and so I'm very happy that they reissued it here. I don't think this is a perfect Soundwave mold. There's issues with it, but we'll get to that in a minute. But overall, still really, really cool. So taking a look here at the details, you can see all the nice silver bits here. You can see this nice light gray painted here. You can essentially see the play buttons as well, decked out in the silver. The light gray also works through here. And then you can see the accessories. We'll show these off when he gets into robot mode. But yeah, you can see very nicely painted. You have the red stripe that's very accurate. You have some more stuff here. Overall, really solid. You see some more silver and nicely painted, gold and all that stuff right here, up here as well. And so, with, just us taking a quick look at the details, we're going to do the comparison, and so we're going to set this guy off to the side here. And here he is with the original, and you got to see, like, taking a look, you can see, like, the silvers here are even slightly different, like, this one's still a little shinier in my opinion. And when you look at the grays are definitely different. You can see the grays and their differences there. You can also see, what I'll say is the blue is not different. The gold here is still the same as well as here. You do have relatively the same silver, but I still feel like it's a little shinier on this. I don't know if that's just the light that I have, but I think it's a little more shiny here. And then take a look here. You can even see it. I didn't point this out, but you can see it. This will, obviously, these will become his forearms, right? And so what'll become his forearms, you can see they're even different here. You can see that paint, like that drab gray. Then you can see like the silver here with the red. Very, very accurate, very nice. You can see even the little red details here are missing here. And then you can even see, right, this all blends well with the silver, you can definitely see when it comes to this mold, they definitely did what they did. Now, when it comes to Laserbeak, so we'll eject Laserbeak here. I really don't know if you guys are going to be able to tell on camera. I think you can. You can basically see that this Laserbeak, this is the Laserbeak that comes with the new reissue in the Nemesis bridge. This is the original. The reds are slightly different. This is a little more dark and a little more shiny, in my opinion, when you're taking a look at this. Overall, I do kind of prefer this one, actually, because I think it's more accurate. But at the end of the day, it's so hard to tell. Like, it took me a second because I had to put it under my lamp light when I was looking at these, like, late at night a few days ago. And, yeah, you can see right there, you can see the differences in the reds there. And so that's the major difference I see here. You can even see it here on the bottom. I think it's a little, yeah, you can definitely see it more here on the bottom that the reds are different. So yeah, when it comes to even Laserbeak, they did a little bit of stuff, nothing too crazy, but enough to where it actually is, like I showed you, it's actually noticeable to an extent. But you just have to look really hard. From a distance, it's going to be hard to tell, especially if you haven't owned the original figure or haven't even seen it like in person before, but they're definitely different. You can even see, I'm taking a look here, even the Decepticon symbols look pretty much the same. Yeah, overall this is just a better package when it comes to like the paint. It just looks better, it's more vibrant, everything like that. And so just like we did with Shockwave, we're going to use some editing, and we are going to turn the Soundwave from both of these Soundwaves from their cassette modes and into their robot modes. And I gotta say here, guys, now this is where it's a little bit more difficult to tell in certain areas where, both of them differ, but I'll tell you this right now. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, there are two of these three figures that were known for really bad yellowing, and this was one of them. Very luckily, I don't know how I keep getting lucky. I am very lucky that my original Netflix Soundwave here on the left was not one of the ones that, whoops, and that's I just realized that's reversed. I was very fortunate to have one of these sound waves that really hasn't yellowed at all, and I am not sure why. I again, maybe it's just because I haven't handled him all too much. I mean, I opened him and played with him for a couple days when I first got him, like I think like a year and a half or 2 years ago, and then I just shelved him ever since. Maybe it's because of that. Maybe also because I don't turn on the lights on my shelves too often. I don't have too much light where my display. I don't know, but regardless, my Shockwave, my Soundwave was very lucky to not be yellowed. But I know that a majority of people were not fortunate with their Netflix Soundwave, and so this figure is obviously meant to be able to have the ability to not yellow, right? And so taking a look at the differences, there's really no differences in the face that I can tell right away, but the major one you can already tell is these. You can see the in the cannons here, the red trim there on the cannons is much different as well. Actually, now that I'm seeing it in the light, I don't know if is that just the light? The eyes look a little more vibrant on this guy compared to this guy, at least from this distance. Yeah, they actually are, I think. Yeah, we were looking at the color. Yeah, you can see the colors on the heads. Yeah, I actually noticed that right away on camera. You can see the eyes are much more dark on the new Nemesis bridge one versus this one. But you can also see in the forearms here. Look at the forearms. You can see the forearms are much more of this nice silver color with that red striping. That's very accurate to the original show. And then here on this Netflix Soundwave, it's just this drab gray with no other detail, no other painted detail at least. The crotch piece is basically the same going down here. I still think that this is a tad bit shinier than the original. But that could also just be the light I meant, and then you can see the feet are also silver in comparison to the gray. You can even see the light colored plastic for this gun. You can see them right there. Like, you can see the differences there. In addition to that, the back really pretty much the same. Besides like this piece. This piece is obviously on the new Soundwave. I think is much shinier, much more nice, vibrant silver paint. And overall, when it comes to these two, I definitely prefer this one. You can see again the accuracy here. You can even see the red details here on the shoulder bits compared to the original. That is a nice little detail. And so we're also going to do this real quick. We're going to take out both laser beaks, and I'm just going to transform them on camera because these guys really aren't that difficult to transform. So you just do this. So this is the original Netflix Soundwave. Just of course do this one. Just cut my nails. That you flip this. And then you do have this, so this is the original. We'll set this guy down for a second, and we'll transform the new. Actually, no, this is the new one. Sorry. Then we'll transform the old one, like so. Just do that, like that. That's just want to be careful to not break anything. There. And now we can compare them. They do still look both really good. Again, the major difference is I think that the new one is is darker in the red, as you can see. In addition to that, I also think that let's see, is the face really isn't different. I think it's a little shinier, like in these parts here and in the red. I don't know if that's just maybe the shade or maybe the light I'm using, but I still feel that this is a little darker, a little shinier in comparison to the original. And obviously you still do have the tab, so you can just flip this tab for both of them, and then you can just peg this guy into the slot there. So yeah, both of them really solid. Again, this guy is just way better, but there is an issue that I do have. So we're actually going to set the laser beaks off to the side here because we don't need them for the what I'm about to do. Oh, actually, one thing I did notice, you can see here, you can even see the gold here. This is yellow, and this is definitely a gold. It matches that's one thing I actually just noticed now next to the eyes. But one thing I want to say here, right here and now, is because we're going to do the articulation on this guy's joints are still really, really solid. I mean, when I'm moving this guy around, they're very, like, they're not tight, but they feel good tight. Like, they're still feel good tight on this guy. Nothing is very loose. With this guy, the joints are much looser. Like, these are much flimsier in comparison to this guy, especially here in the legs. They're not awful. It's not to the point where he's having a hard time standing awful, but it's definitely something to know. And I'm not exactly sure what happened with this. I don't know if anyone else has had this issue with Soundwave in this release for the Nemesis bridge, but for me, definitely his joints, like here in the legs, and even in the arms, they're looser than the original Netflix one. And that's a real shame, because essentially what we're paying for, if you really want to think about it, is a premium finish series like they're doing for the movie figures, right? For the live action movie figures, they're doing a premium finish series, and this is what this is supposed to be. So when you get a figure, that's just a reissue, the original with better paint, you expect it to have the same level of quality when it comes at least to the joints, because the main reason people are getting this is obviously a reissue, because this figure is hella expensive on the aftermarket. But in addition to that, the other reason people are getting this is because the paint looks good, and they are afraid of this one yellowing or have had their Soundwave yellowing. Now, only time will tell if this guy will yellow, but from what I'm seeing now, I personally don't see how this could yellow. But again, I could be completely wrong, but at the same time, if this is what this figure is supposed to accomplish, at the very least right now, this is the best version that you're going to be able to get in terms of the paint accuracy, especially when it comes to not necessarily worrying about this thing yellowing. I hope they'd really solve it with this figure. But yeah, overall, when it comes to the details and everything, this figure is way better. And so we'll get into the articulation. So you get get a full 360 here at the head. It's on the ball joint. You don't really get much up and down, but you do get a little bit, just enough. You do get full 360 here at the arm. Then you do get upper bicep rotation. Let me remove the this gun here. Come on. That's tight, though. You do get more than 90 at the elbow. You can flip up these skirts. You do also have a waist joint, so full 360 waist joint as well. No wrists. Oh, you do have wrist. Wait, do you? No, I forgot you don't have wrist. Yep, sorry, my bad there. You can kick forward. You can flip the butt flap as well. You can kick back about that far. You have 90 at the knee. You have an upper thigh rotation, and you have some minimal ankle rocker pivot. So nothing super crazy, but still solid articulation. Overall, Soundwave wasn't the most dynamic character. I will never say that. But yeah, it's really those joints. Overall, if those joints were just similar in tightness and solidness that the original one was, this would be a slam dunk over the, and it still is, because at the end of the day, the paint is just much better on this guy, and the joints aren't so loose to where this guy is like falling over. But at the end of the day, I will say again, this guy's joints are just tighter than this guy, and they just feel better. So at the, what are you gonna do? I still feel that this is the better one, but just be aware that this one might have loose joints for you. And the reason I say that this could be an issue with not just mine and a lot is because of Megatron. And so let's get to Megatron. Alrighty guys, here we have the Nemesis Bridge Megatron in his tank mode, and it looks amazing. It looks really, really good. You can see all of this gorgeous silver paint. I mean, they outdid themselves with the silver. It really helps accentuate all of these awesome details. Sure, it might get a little lost in the amount of silver, but Megatron was a very monocolored character. Like, yeah, he had the darker grays and silvers, but he was mainly gray with accents of a little bit of red, a little bit of blue and yellow in his chest area and stuff like that. In his eyes, obviously, but this is a gorgeous tank. Like, this is really awesome. You can see nice details there. You can see this is clean. So on the Earthrise release, this is all dirty, and we'll compare that. But really, really solid, and an awesome silver paint color to really, go along with how Megatron should look in toy form. And so we're going to do the comparison, and we're going to set this guy off to the side here. And here he is with the original. Now, yes, I know I don't have the barrel. That's just buried under a bunch of spare parts that I throw in the Ziploc bag. I'm sorry I wasn't able to drag that out. But for the most part, you guys can understand. I mean, you can just look up pictures of it. I mean, I can even throw in the picture of it with the barrel, like, right here. But when it comes to this, the thing that I notice the most is you definitely see is the lack of any of that battle damage, like the grossness here, right? And you can see that this, instead of being all this black, is now turned into this very nice silver and this very nice, more cartoon accurate gray color. In addition to that, you can definitely see the silver here makes a huge difference on the top of the tank mode. Now, the fusion cannon is pretty much largely unchanged. The other thing you'll notice that is a bit of a shame, but I understand why, is that he doesn't have the D16 anymore on the new version. In addition, he doesn't have this Decepticon logo either. Now, whether you think that that's okay or not, I personally like it because it just makes him clean, right? You can even see here when we stack them on each other, you can see this is painted silver, this is not painted silver, this is also black. You can also see some of the details coming across here a little bit better with that lighter color scheme overall, and the red here is gone. You can see that that's gone as well. Overall, this is just, in my opinion, a cleaner and a very much more nice tank mode in comparison to the original Earthrise release. And just like Soundwave, I was also very lucky for that my Megatron also wasn't a victim of the yellowing, because like I said, 2 of the 3 figures, the only figure left obviously by power of deduction is Megatron, and unfortunately, yes, Earthrise Megatron was very much well known for awful yellowing. And so, just like with Shockwave and Soundwave, here he is in his tank mode, and we are going to do some editing and turn him into his robot mode. Alrighty, folks, and here we have both of the Megatrons in their robot modes, and clearly, when it comes to paint accuracy, absolutely the new Nemesis Bridge Dramatic Capture Series Megatron is by far better. As you can see, taking a look at him, you can see the Decepticon logo is a bit darker. You can see some more detail here in the abdomen area. In addition, you can see this nice silver, very clean, even in the feet here. Which, by the way, one thing I didn't mention in the tank mode, I hate how the feet stick out. I don't understand why they couldn't engineer a way to fold those in. But regardless, you can see all this nice silver is just so much is so much better in comparison to this. And even in here, you can see that this gray is way more accurate to the original cartoon than when it comes to all this dark black, this black dark gray that he has around him. And even in the abdomen area, you can see they missed a couple details when you compare both of these side by side. Although when it comes to the absolute visuals, this figure absolutely blows this one out of the water. There's one major issue. So, actually, well, that's not a good way to show it. But one thing I'll show you is this. I can hold this guy like this. Watch this. Yeah, for some reason, and I know I'm not the only one who has suffered this figure, yeah, you can already see it. This figure has loose as hell knees, and if you look inside the knee, this is the screw that holds it in. I kid you not, I tried to tighten this on both legs. Worked for a grand total of 5 seconds, and then he became loosey-goosey all again, which more than likely means those screws have no threads in them, which is really, really weird that this figure of all figures has the QC when this is probably one of the figures next to the other two. This is one of the most sought after molds because of how accurate it is. Like I showed you, even looking at the head sculpts, this is a little more accurate because they painted the face a little more white in comparison to this, which is how it was in the original cartoon. This is all mostly silver with the dark gray, this drab, very normal gray. But yeah, at the end of the day, this is by far the better looking Megatron. We can't deny that. But why are his knees screwed up? And this is really screwing me up because clearly, this is the better figure. Except those knees. My figure's knees are still rock solid on the original Earthrise one, so I don't understand what happened in manufacturing and whatever that caused a lot of these Megatrons in this new Nemesis bridge set. You can see I'm even having a hard time standing him up just for the review. To have these loose knees. It really sucks. And I think it just ruins a little bit of it for me, because when you're buying a premium finish figure, even in that premium finish line, which is essentially what this is, you expect it to be, if not the better, if not matching the quality of the original when it comes to at least the joint tolerances and how tight they feel. This guy doesn't, and it really sucks, because I would wholeheartedly say this is the better figure, but with his knees, I can't. And at the same time, yes, can I go and find screws that are comparable to the ones in his legs and then just screw them in? Absolutely. But the fact that I have to actually make extra effort like that shouldn't be a thing. They should come from the factory perfectly, the joint's perfectly fine. But on mine, and I know on some other people's, you just push him, and he topples over. Now, I'm going to have mine displayed sitting down, so it doesn't really matter, I guess, all too much. But at the end of the day, the fact that it even has loose knees shouldn't be a thing. It really just shouldn't. And I hope you guys can agree with that. It's a real shame that that's the case here, because this is clearly the better Megatron. And so I'll just show off the articulation. So you do have, you can get a full 360 here at the head. You get a little bit of down, a little bit up. You do have a ball joint there. So you get full 360 here. You also get a little bit of elbow rotation. You do get 90 at the elbow. No wrist, unfortunately. The waist does do a full 360, but I just don't want to, well, we'll do it here, yeah. Waist does a full 360 like this. You also get forward kick, you get backward kick, you get about 90 at the knee, thigh rotation here, and then you do have ankle rocker. You have some solid ankle rocker. I'm still not a fan of how the feet are designed for this figure in general, but at the end of the day, my major qualm, you can even see it, by the way, one detail I didn't even point out, this all red here, that doesn't exist on the original as well, and that's accurate to the cartoon. So again, like I told you guys, when it comes to these figures, I mean, this is still a fantastic figure, don't get me wrong, but clearly this should be the extreme better version, and in terms of visuals, it absolutely knocks the Earthrise one out of the park. But in terms of functionality, the Earthrise one is just much more functional. Yeah, for some reason, and even here in the arms, in the peg for the fusion cannon, it's all way looser, and I don't get how that happened. I really just don't understand how that happened to this figure, because I was really looking forward to actually getting more accurate figures when it came to the paint, but for the functionality, it just kind of sucks for Megatron in particular. And so there's one last thing I have to show off to you. In addition to all of the figures that you also get the throne that came with Coronation Starscream, which is obviously the Decepticon throne. And so I think this actually is a lot of nice value, because for me, I didn't end up picking up Coronation Starscream because I think me, like most people, for me, the display option is very cool. But the fact that they were charging you $60 because they gave you the hand joints, the extra finger joints in it, in addition to giving you the crown, the cape, and the shoulder pads with the throne, and then making it $60, I get why, because that plastic, the amount of plastic is probably worth the extra money in terms of, them, manufacturing it. But I wasn't going to pay for it because I already had Earthrise Starscream, and I wasn't going to display him with his coronation gear on, so it was completely useless for me to pick it up. And I think a lot of people also fell within that same boat, and that's why we saw a lot of the Starscreams pegged, not pegged, but just sitting on shelves for a very long time because no one was buying them, because no one saw the point in buying it, especially if you had Earthrise Starscream. So it was really nice, and I think it adds a lot of value to put the throne in this where it really, really makes sense. I think it makes sense a lot here, and because of this throne, I'm actually going to be redoing my Decepticon display for the G1 stuff. So really awesome that they added this in. You can see the nice detail here. If you have the Coronation Starscream one, I don't know if there are any differences, but from first-hand looks, it doesn't really look like there is, but you do have that nice Decepticon logo. Nice details going out throughout. You can see the nice molded details here on the side, even on the back, and then you have 5mm here where you can store some guns. You can even store weapons. You can even store more weapons on the inside there. You can see the 5mm ports in there. But very, very nice that they added this. And so I have a good chunk to say for the concluding thoughts, and so without further ado, we'll get right into that. Alrighty, folks, so for my final and concluding thoughts on the Transformers Dramatic Capture Series Nemesis Bridge set, this set is mixed in my opinion. I have mixed feelings about it. Now, what I'm going to say right now is that this set has a lot of value, and that's one of the best things about this set. It was really hard to initially find Netflix Soundwave, Siege Shockwave, and Earthrise Megatron, and even any of the other Megatron molds for that matter, during their actual mainline releases. And so it is really nice to not only get reissues of these figures, but in addition to that, also getting the throne as well. And that's a lot of awesome value, especially when you look online. The prices for some of these figures are absolutely ridiculous. Like, they're just insane, astronomical. And so there is a lot of value in here. So let's go quick one by one. What is good about each of these figures? Shockwave. Way more accurate paint, although I do think the eye's a little off. The eye is fine. Really solid joints, nothing really wrong with him at all. I actually do not find I find zero things wrong with this Shockwave. Soundwave, much more accurate when it comes to, at least the paint just looks better on him, and in addition, the accuracy on his weapons, you see the silver here, which wasn't silver. I actually didn't mention that, but you can see this is not silver. This is silver on the new one. His forearms with the red striping, the little red details here on his shoulders are really nice. The striping, the silver here, the brighter gray plastic just makes this guy pop more. And I think when it comes to Soundwave, also the eyes are a bit darker, but overall, even the chest is gold, right? And Laserbeak being, well, actually, I didn't even have Laserbeak, but we'll just set him on Soundwave shoulder. But when it comes to Soundwave, he's really awesome, and he is still by far the better figure, especially if your Soundwave has yellowed. There's a lot of appealing picking this guy up. The only issue I have with Soundwave is that his joints are not as tight as when it comes to the original release, at least for my copy. So I'd like to hear you guys' thoughts on that if you have any. If you have experience with both of these figures, I'd like to hear your experience with the original Netflix Soundwave versus this reissue. Megatron. What's really good about Megatron is his paint. It's absolutely way more accurate to the cartoon. They got more details correct, and that's really solid there. Sorry about that cut there, guys. I freaking choked. Goodness me. Megatron was really solid in that department. He just looks way more accurate, looks way more, higher quality. But getting into the bad stuff, like I said with Shockwave, there's nothing. Like I said with Soundwave, just the joints are a little looser than the original one. However, where I think it really hurts is with Megatron. The fact that he has those awful knees is really, really rough, because that compromises a lot of the posing that you can do with him. Now, I know that I said I'm going to have my Megatron displayed just sitting down like this on his throne. However, if you do want to actually display him standing up, I am worried about those, the longevity of those screws. So what I recommend you do if you do pick this set up is definitely change those screws out, and I probably will change mine out at some point. But the fact that you actually have to do that is really annoying. And the fact that there is even QC with the joints in Soundwave as well as Megatron is a real shame, because when you're paying for something more premium, right? Like, this is the idea of you buying this, is that you get a more premium paint job, but at the same time you still would expect the same level of quality, at least when it comes to the joints, right? Like, I of all things to be QC on this thing, the joints was the last thing I was worried about when it came to this. But unfortunately, that is the, where it's reared its ugly head, is in the joints, right? The big meh of it, right? So at the end of the day, what am I going to give the set out of 10? I'm going to give it a 7 or an 8, because although I do think that the figures are by far, they should just all be the better figures, which Shockwave and Soundwave are, Megatron's knees really, really suck. And I'll say once you fix him, he is by far the better one, but the fact that you have to go fix him, or that some people will, is a real shame, and that kind of sucks. Do I still recommend you buy the set? Yes, and the reason being, and the major reason, well, there's two. I recommend you buy this if your Earthrise, Megatron, as well as Netflix Soundwave have yellowed. In addition to that, I also recommend you buy this if you never had access to getting these figures in the first place. You never found them, never wanted to buy them, never wanted to pay the people on the aftermarket for the ridiculous prices they're charging. That's the other reason I would recommend it. And the major reason I do recommend it at the end of the day is because of those aftermarket prices. There's a lot of value in this set. You get the throne, you get 3 really hard to get figures. At the end of the day, it is a really solid deal, despite the price still being about $100, $110, $120. Now, I will say it's still expensive, but I still recommend it because you get a lot of value there. Like, for example, I was like trying to see how I wanted to explain this. For a $400,000 McLaren 720S, it is hypercar speeds at $400,000, right? Hypercar speeds tends to be in the millions of dollars, right? But that doesn't make $400,000 McLaren cheap, right? That still is expensive. Same thing with this set. A lot of value, but it's still expensive. But in terms of value, when you compare it to the aftermarket prices, what you're getting in this with the figures, which figures you're actually getting, it's really solid value in that sense, and that's why I still recommend it. So I did pick mine up actually on TF Source. I'll leave a link in the description to that. I also know that I think Big Bad Toy Store as well as Hasbro had it. I don't know if Amazon will have reselling, people reselling it on there, if we even had a listing for it, but I'll leave links to all of those in the description below. I know that on Big Bad Toy Store as well as on Hasbro they're sold out, but I'll still leave links just in case they do a resuck, so you guys can have the links right away. And yeah, I think that is about it. So I thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. Please like, comment, rate, and subscribe. Share this video with your friends, and also follow me on the socials. Those will be linked in the description below. And with that, guys, I once again thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video review, and I will catch you all in the next one. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Peace.